This is John Chamness with PennyWhisperer.com, and I am pleased to have with me today the CEO of Valcom Incorporated, a person that I've spoken with on a number of occasions and absolutely fell in love with his vision for his company and his passion for shareholders. Please welcome with me Mr. Vince Vellardita.
Hey, John. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome, Vince. Yes, doing wonderful. I want to start by just having you give us a brief history of Valcom. I know it's a company that's been around a long time and has been through some ups and downs, but just talk about some of the things of the past.
Okay. The company's been around since the mid-'80s. We have been involved at one point. We were in interactive programming. We were the largest independent studio operator in the United States. We had studios in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and New York. Just under about 1 million square feet of real estate and 22 acres of land. We had a couple of long-term contracts with Paramount Pictures, Disney, all the majors. We did a lot of projects. We did the show JAG and NCIS we started. We did that for about 10 years. We also did Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and the studio business was real well in the 90s. We also had a production arm and started developing some of our own programming. We had contracts to produce some of our contents for some of the networks. So we had built relationships with Fox, Warner Brothers, CBS, and we were growing quite well back then.
That's wonderful. You guys have worked with some real powerhouses, it sounds like, and I remember reading in some of the press, too, that you were involved back in the early days, actually back when I was growing up listening to the radio in high school with bands like Duran Duran and some of the other big acts that were going on back then.
Yeah, before I joined Valcom, I've been involved. I've been in the industry for about 35 years, the entertainment industry, and I've produced and promoted some of the largest events in the world. I had a lot to do with bringing U2, Duran Duran into the country. We, paid them very minimum dollars back then. That was the late 70s, early 80s. We did presidential campaigns. We've done Super Bowl events. We did a couple hundred major events and done thousands of episodes of television film. And, some of these people we've worked with over the years have been shareholders in the company and have gone through the ups and downs of the company. We've got shareholders that have been in for 20, 25 years.
Hey, before I get into some of the tough questions that I know maybe on a lot of people's minds, I want to have you just share in a very similar fashion to what you shared with me the first time that we spoke on just your vision for the company. Where is Valcom headed? Just talk about anything you want right now as far as where you see Valcom going.
Okay. Well, John, we had started, when I got aboard and took the reins in Valcom and became the chairman CEO in the late 90s, the company was really doing interactive programming. It was way ahead of itself. It did game shows. It did a satellite bingo. It did some lotteries. And actually, they were a client of mine in the studio business. So when I got aboard and we were a studio operator, and I had an impeccable reputation. Our occupancy rate was about 90%. And, we started to build the company, and, we did quite well. We were sold out for about 10 years straight. The industry started to change. During that time, we were, since we were sold out, we wrote a business plan to become the studio of the future. And in that, I look at every business, I take it where my vision is how do I turn around and develop this? And I look at it as like a dairy. Here, I want to turn around and make it into the milk, butter, and cheese, so that I can turn around and profit as much as possible. So we ended up getting more involved in programming. And at the time, when the studio business started to change, I watched the television end. We had started doing television pilots and productions. We did co-productions with 20th Century Fox. to, CBS. We did a lot of projects because, it takes one big show or one big movie and all of a sudden you could have a blockbuster hit.
Yeah.
I mean, you could turn around and a TV show could run into $100 to a few $100 million, like American Idol or some of these other movies that become blockbusters. There's a company called Summit Entertainment that was just bought from Lionsgate for like $400 million. They had one or two hit movies that generated a few $100 million. So we were going for some big hits there. As our business maintained, we made money every day in the studio business. But then, reality television started to come around. And that kind of changed the whole aspect of programming. The studios and the networks started to cut their budgets. And we had to kind of reinvent ourselves. So we were doing productions, and the overall goal with the company, we had at that point, everything was going right. We had bought a television station. We were going to launch a Latino television network. We were in the publication business. The stock was trading. I think we had done our last big quarter. I think it was like $14 million, and we showed a 7-figure earnings, and stock was at $3.50, and we had a big firm commitment to grow the company, to build it more into the television network in which we wanted to go after, because these networks sold for very, very high dollars. And then 9/11 hit. And when 9/11 hit, we had a firm commitment to get the stock listed on the American Stock Exchange. We had to do, I think it was one acquisition. We did two. We had to show 3 positive quarters of earnings. We showed 3. We did $15 million in our last bit of revenue. Things were just going great. But 9/11 hit. And a couple of the gentlemen that were helping us was with a firm called Bear Hunter. They were analysts on the exchange, and they were killed in 9/11. And we were still committed to doing some of this, and we entered in and we made a deal with a hedge fund, which was probably the wrong decision, but we were stuck, and we were under some contractual obligations. And that was kind of like the fall of it, because we had done a deal with a company called Loris Master Fund. And Loris Master Fund ended up, they ended up, we had taken in, they set up us with a $20 million line. We advanced a few $1 million. The stock ended up getting crushed. It went back down under $1, and ended up going into a litigation with them. Ended up beating them, and there were some shorting provisions, and then they turned around, and you still had to pay back the money. We didn't want to do it with stocks. We were paying it, and they played real hard. Long story short, they forced the company. At this point, everything started to collapse in the company. They were forcing to try to take over the company, and we put ourselves into a Chapter 11 and to protect the assets of the company, and not to hide from paying the debt, but to make sure that I could protect the assets. We ended up, long story short, after a couple-year battle, we beat Loris Master Fund. We settled it. They paid the company about $600,000. The debt was washed away, and we still got $560,000. And Loris, the billion-dollar hedge fund, no longer existed, and we continued. But during that time, I ended up getting, had a lot of pressure on. I was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer, and I lost 4 family members, and I went through, years of fights and kept hanging on to the company, just to hit this goal in which we're going at right now. So, the years have gone through, and we ended up during where we're at, where the company's going now, we've refocused and reemerged ourselves. Over the years, we acquired a lot of content. The phrase out there, content is king, is such a major, it means so much. It means exactly what they say. But we ended up acquiring content from doing our productions, to finding producers that ran out of money, to companies that were closing up, buying libraries, any which way we could find it. When the opportunity came about, I would go for it to try to purchase it. Long story short, in doing the productions, there was a man that came in involved when we were doing production. His name was Woody Frazier. Woody Frazier was the top executive producer. He worked with us for several years, and I had known him for probably 20 years. And we did a lot of programming with him. He created That's Incredible, Good Morning America, Mike Douglas, Dick Cavett, you name the shows he was in. So we had 3 shows that we were hired to do by a company called MTM, which was Mary Tyler Moore. They had just partnered up with a man named Pat Robertson, who had a television network that was in about 60 million homes. And it was not the PTL network, but it was a faith-based channel. He partnered with MTM, hired a man named Tony Xenopoulos. They brought us in to develop programming for it. And over the years, Woody's brilliance he had was able to come up with, we did Wild and Crazy as Kids, Family Challenge, and we also did another show called The Home Show. The Home Show was with Christine Ferrari. Family Challenge was with a man named Ryan Seacrest, who now is discovered Wild and Crazy as Kids became the #1 show on Nickelodeon. Well, these shows helped build the rating up so high on this new channel called the Family Channel that Rupert Murdoch came along, and another show we were doing was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and Rupert Murdoch bought the Family Channel from MTM for a little over $1 billion. He then acquired from Chaim Saban the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and called it Fox and Kids. During this time, we were still doing the programming, and then we watched what Rupert Murdoch did was he sold it to Fox and Kids because Disney was out there with Michael Eisner and wanted to own all of the kids and family. Long story short, he sold the network for $5.2 billion. I wants to make $3 billion in 1 year. And they said, this is the direction the company needs to go in. So what we've done is we came along and we slowly continue to buy, content. I found a faith-based television network in Clearwater, Florida, called Faith TV. We acquired it several years ago for $1.5 million cash and stock. And it was in about 8-10 million homes. Now we changed the name to My Family TV. So you could go to www.myfamilytv.tv, the website. Long story short, we used our library to help build this station. We're up right now in about 43 million homes. Our goal is to build this up as big as we can get it. And by using our library, which we can constantly lease out or use to leverage to get TV stations to carry our programming, it builds our network. So the new focus of the company and where the company's direction is we're building a television network, and we're utilizing our library, which now consists between 8,000 and 10,000 titles, from music to television and film. Some of the music we have is the Platters with songs like Only You, The Great Pretender. They sold 70 million albums. We're retaking a lot of that out, and that's been able to help us build this network and a new focus of revenue, because you can constantly resell and repackage this content. So that's the new Valcom and which direction we're going. So I'll give you a lot of history real quick, Don.
Vince, a company like Valcom, who has been around for as many years as Valcom has certainly seen a lot of difficulties and a lot of obstacles, and has been able to overcome. Obviously, you're still here, you're still kicking, there's still things going on. What are some of the tough things that are happening right now, and what's Valcom doing to overcome the challenges that you're facing?
Well, the toughest thing was, when we enlighten ourselves with this library and come back out, and we wanted to see what the real value was and find the direction. I didn't expect it to hit the limit it did. And, we had an appraiser coming out. And, an appraisal was only worth what someone would pay anyway. But the appraiser was crazy what it came out to. I knew we had a lot of value because we spent the money on content. And I was always shocked at why the auditors would were writing down certain things. Like we bought this television network. We had, just under $2 million cash into it, and no, more than that, because we put another $1 million into it. It was generating revenue, but they had it on our books at no money. And so we had this valuation done in the library, and it was astronomical, the numbers. It came up, the audio portion, I think, was 60-some million, and the Stoneman was 40-some million dollars. I know we have got some great titles. We've got some stuff that people have never heard, with Elvis and the Platters, to Michael Jackson film Never Been Seen, to, some real history. We've got master recordings from the 50s, 60s, and even beyond that. But the valuations came out so strong. We had a lot of people take interest, and booking them through, we've had problems with, we have a lot of very, very high wealth individuals that have come into the company. You've had some, a few groups that have tried to acquire the company or take it over, by taking positions or making offers on it. And, it's a big obstacle. All of a sudden, you have a company that's in the pennies, and all of a sudden you're showing a valuation of $100 million, whether it's true or not. It's only, it's a projected valuation. Now, is there some value here? Well, I know that, we spent over 25 years. We have, there were 2 shows alone that generated about $5 million a year in income. But so you had arguments and fights and battles in there, and we had some issues on, control parts, and, with the auditing, like we're working with the SEC right now. First, we had a management issue over our filings, and, we're trying to reestablish, over the past several years, we've had a few different auditors that were, auditors do not want to take any risk whatsoever. It's easy for them to write off. Like 2 projects alone in the past 2 years. We did a project with Michel Legrand with MGM, spent about $1 million. We brought in about $500,000 in revenue. It's on our books at 0 with a big debt, and we should be able to at least capitalize on that. We should have been able to book some of that revenue. The television network, we should have some evaluation on there. And a lot of this stuff was written off, and when you're fighting for your life and things aren't that good, you just kind of let the auditors do whatever they want to, because you're at their mercy. You get the filings done. Well, when these evaluations came out, and you had some very powerful, influential people, you want to make sure you do it right. And our big obstacle right now is getting our filings and getting everything in order, and getting the management properly in place. And that should all take care of itself this month. And then the company should take off. We were getting ready to get started off the races about a year ago. And then these hurdles, these obstacles came. But, this company's hit obstacles all along. We've had a $1 billion hedge fund try to put us out of business and close the doors. And, we succeeded. I faced death twice in this time, and I'm a fighter in the company, and I've got everything I own in this company, and I want to see it succeed. I don't win unless it succeeds. I don't get anything unless I succeed. And, I'm out for the shareholders, and the shareholders put money into it, and they need to be able to benefit from it. Absolutely. So once we get through these obstacles, we'll always have obstacles. Every company will have an obstacle. But from a company that had nothing to all of a sudden, people don't believe it really has, and maybe the story's not told right, but, like this television network we have right now should sell for, if we can hit our plan the next 2 years, $100 to $200 million. The last networks, I can name 5 of them right now, they sold for. GE bought the Weather Channel. Who thought the Weather Channel would have a valuation? They bought it for $3.5 billion cash and $500 million in General Electric stock. The Family Channel sold for $5.2 billion. BET never made a penny and sold for $3.7 billion. The Outdoors Channel, which was just basically outdoors and hunting, sold for $575 million. Lionsgate bought the TV TV Guide network, which was a TV guide for $250 million. All it was a thing to show what was on TV. So, my goal and the company's goal is to build this channel, which has a true evaluation. Probably, you're worth anywhere from, they can give you to 50 cents a household to $10 a household. But say the average is $3 a household. It's an e-commerce business. It's getting into the household. So there's a valuation there, and now we're starting to make some noise. So one day that, it really didn't look that well before. The library. We've got one song alone that, we're owed, or we're contesting that we're owed. There's some royalties owed. A song that we share in royalties, I'll Be Home for Christmas. That pays $400,000 a year in royalties. We haven't collected any royalties for years. And, that we're going after it takes a lot of time. A lot of people that don't understand the business think it can happen overnight, but it takes, all of a sudden you're dealing with a Presley estate or some other big estate. Just saying, I'm not saying that they owe us any money or anything, but if you're dealing with some big players and you haven't been around, it takes a long time to go through probate and try to collect what's owed. But there is, some real evaluation here that's strong.
Obviously, there is a lot of value in the company. Otherwise, there wouldn't be other parties interested in taking over or taking the company in a direction based on their own ideas.
Well, a lot of people want, they have ideas. A lot of people are concerned about their investment. But, we've had, besides shareholders, we've had at least 5 to 7 major companies taking a look, trying to acquire us because our evaluations we're not at a point to be acquired, first off. We're too small still. In our evaluation, our numbers are too low. Give us a year or two, but there has been some major names, if I was to mention, but I've signed non-disclosures, that have looked at this company, that have come close to, and 1 or 2 that have made an offer on this company. But it's way too low. Yeah, you can sell it and make a profit and show the shareholders some happiness, and you could probably go 4, 5, 10 times what the trading price is, but that's not what this goal is. There are people in the stock that are in the stock. I want the stock in the dollars. That's where it really belongs, not 10 cents, not 15 cents, not anywhere. And, I had it there, and it was a $250 million market cap, and I think we were overvalued then. But if we got that evaluation next year or the year after hitting certain milestones, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think you made a reference to the filings, and I want to ask you about that specifically just because I know there are so many people that's in the forefront of their mind right now, the end of the year filing.
Well, we had an auditor. Our auditor got into, he was very concerned. He was, he's not a big firm. They do carry insurance. He was concerned about the board members, a few of the board members. There was a dispute with management. And there's a board member that wanted to be in control of the company and made, comments to him and wanted to be totally indemnified before he got into finishing his work. We've kind of resolved that somewhat. But, and then plus, it's a lot of work to go back years. If I have to go back 4 years or 5 years to show you the real evaluation of the company for the SEC, the shareholders, that there really is something here, that's what I have to do. So it has been held up from management in the beginning. Now management is moving forward, and hopefully we'll have this thing filed out. And we have been talking. I had talked with and explained the situation with the SEC as of, I guess, a week and a half ago on this filing. I told them that I was hoped to have it done at any time. So I should have it done in the month of March. Trying to get a commitment from an auditor, every day I get hit with a shareholder, what day. They'll never give you a day. I mean, in 20 years of dealing with auditors, they'll tell you the day, and the last minute they'll change their mind. there'll be another little problem. And this one's a very sensitive one because of the assets, because of several years, and because of, trying to make it all right. And it's not trying to, whatever the outcome is, the outcome is. I would just like, and I only think it's fair, that a lot of the assets that have been written off can be capitalized, or some of them can be capitalized and show the valuation. I don't know if it can happen. There's some say it can, some say it don't, but, it is what it is where it comes out. I know what our valuation is, and it'll be a shame if a lot of it was written off if we can't get it reinstated.
Vince, as we wrap up the interview here today, can you talk about anything that might be coming down the pike that shareholders or even potential shareholders could get excited about?
Well, My Family TV, you should go to the website. It's got tremendous growth. We were a big hit at a conference we did in January. We're launching a campaign. It's called Cruise Across America, where we have cars participating in the markets. We're bringing the viewer into the household. And we've been signing a lot of stations. We're greening. I think we picked up 10 million homes in the past 90 days, which is huge. And our library was, we've only really started to monetize on about 10% of it, but we put out some nice contracts. If they can come back with a green light, like I hope and expect here shortly, the shareholders are going to see it. And the numbers could be very, very big. Huge growth over last year. So, watch the content coming out in the stores and on broadcast, and watch the channel grow. That's about the best I can say. I really think this is going to be one of the better years for Valcom.
I believe that too, Vince. Thank you so much for your time. And, of course, if you're listening to this broadcast right now, please take a moment and go to Valcom.tv or My Family TV's website. And, of course, there is also a profile page on thepennywhisperer.com where you can get information about Valcom.
Yeah, and My Family TV, it's myfamilytv.tv. And if you're in the market in that area, try to watch it on the station. There's a list of affiliates, or if a broadcaster is not carrying it and you're interested in seeing some of the programming that we have, it's traditional family programming, call your broadcaster. Call the station in your market and say, how do we get My Family TV? That'll help you, especially if you're a shareholder. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you, Don.
You've just heard from Vince Vellardita, the CEO of Valcom Incorporated, trading on the pink sheets as VLCO. For more information, please visit Valcom.tv, myfamilytv.tv, or thepennywhisperer.com.